So David Gordon Green's Halloween. Unfortunately, it's gonna be, it sucks that this has to just be called Halloween, because now you're gonna be confused, like where does this fit in the the Halloween franchise? Oh, do you mean the original Halloween? Do you mean Rob Zombie's Halloween, or do you mean David Gordon Green's Halloween? It sucks that you can't just call this like Halloween. I guess you could call it some other stupid title, but whatever you want to call. Whatever you want to call it, David Gordon Green's Halloween is the true sequel. It is, because everyone says, like, oh, with all these, franchises, usually the first film is so great, and then it's like, oh, we can't match the original. We can't quite get back to that point. Well, turns out you can, because that's exactly what David Gordon Green has done here with this amazing script that acts as a direct sequel to the 1978 Halloween film, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, obviously. And this was interesting because it kind of, it's kind of like Godzilla, where it kind of like bypasses all the other films, just says, no, this is the true sequel. I know there was a Halloween 2, and the Halloween 2 was actually pretty good. I'll admit that. I did like it. It was on par, I think. And then we got weird stuff like Halloween 3, and then the series just, ran off the rails there. But now we've actually got the real sequel here. And of course, much like the other great sequels that have come about, like Blade Runner 2049 and Mad Max Fury Road, it's been a few decades, but as we've seen from those films, that a lot of time, waiting pays off. And it does pay off here. 40 years later, we pick up with the story of Michael Myers. Now, Michael Myers is currently in a mental institution. They're still studying him, still trying to figure him out, but now they're getting ready to lock him away. Like, that's going to be the end of him. They've tried to study him, they've tried to get inside his head, but he just won't reveal anything. He won't really talk, even when some reporters come to him and show him the Michael Myers mask. You can kind of feel like something boiling inside him, but he doesn't speak, doesn't say anything. He's not going to reveal anything. Because that's the one thing I do got to mention right at the gate. I love the fact that Michael Myers is kept more as a mystery and an enigma than trying to like decipher. It's like, oh, well, these events happened, and this is what happened through his mind here. Michael Myers isn't like that. Michael Myers will not spill the beans on himself. Michael Myers would rather spill guts. He'd rather kill. He's when he corners you, he's not gonna talk to you. He's just gonna breathe heavily and just stare at you with those dead eyes behind that mask, and he's gonna slaughter you. And that's what's gonna happen. And Laurie Strode, replies by Jamie Lee Curtis, looking more like a grandma now. She realizes this. So she spent the last 40 years preparing for this. She's gotten guns. She's made her house into a stronghold with multiple locks, underground bunkers to hide in. She's put in extra locks. She's put like kind of those gates that come down in stores when it's closing time. She's putting those on every single one of her rooms. So she knows that wrong franchise. Don't kill me, Michael Myers. So she realized that Michael Myers is in one of the rooms. She's gonna pull down the gate and lock him in there. She's thought of this. She's had 40 years to prepare. The only problem is it's made her paranoid among her family. Like she had a daughter. She's played by Judy Greer here, and her daughter was taken away from her because they realized she's too crazy. She's like, look, we gotta prepare. We gotta get the guns ready. We gotta practice aiming. It's like, don't cry. We gotta learn how to shoot guns. We gotta learn how to get down in the bunker when a killer comes. So the family's kind of distanced themselves from her. Judy Greer plays Karen Strode, who's kind of gone off on her own to have her own life in her own suburban neighborhood. She has her own daughter, Allison, played by Andy. I know I'm gonna mispronounce the name. Andy Andy Matichak. Man, I gotta get used to saying that name. And then she also has married. She's married a kind of a goofy husband here, played by Toby Huss. Who, if you don't know who Toby Huss is, you might know him better as Artie, the strongest man in the world from The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Or if you're more into animation, you will know him better as the voice of Cotton Hill from King of the Hill. So he's been around. He's done a lot of voices. He's a lot of fun to watch here. But yeah, so essentially it's back to basics for Michael Myers. Once he gets out of, during transport out of the mental institution, something happens with the bus. He makes his escape, kind of fugitive style. And he goes back on the hunt. He finds a mechanic's uniform, gets it back on. He finds his dirty old mask, puts it back on. He starts going through the neighborhood, starts grabbing weapons, starts killing people, starts working his way up to Laurie. And just because, and Laurie's ready, she's like, I know what's happening. And I love the fact that she's she spends this whole time being very knowing of everything. Like, she's had enough time to be aware of horror movie logic, and also kind of prepared her daughter for this as well, so that they can kind of combat Michael Myers. Now here's the interesting thing about the film. Like, I love the fact that, yes, it does maintain the atmosphere well. It does have that great kind of like John Carpenter score there. You got the piano theme, you got the little music stings with the synth going. I love the way it's shot too, especially with a lot of the kills. It never feels like the kills are trying to be too over the top. Like, sometimes Michael Myers will kill somebody just as simply as choking them or snapping their neck really quick. And other times he'll go way, way, way more brutal, as with one particular person where he'll smash their brains all over the pavement. So yeah, it's Michael's getting back into the swing of things. He's getting back into his old self. And the film kind of gets back into its old self as well. You know, how John Carpenter's Halloween was. You know, it's very much a throwback. It's got kind of the same titles, the same music, the same setup. There's actually some pretty clever twists on familiar scenes from the original film. There's one particular moment that's almost kind of like a parody of the ending from the first film, except it's kind of like switched the roles around. It's a little hard to explain without giving away everything, but suffice to say, the last few minutes of this film become very exciting and intense, especially when you realize how badass Laurie Strode has become. Like, when you see her in that, like, you know, the footage from like the trailers and stuff like that, where she's, you know, touting the shotgun and everything, she is as badass as she looks there. I mean, yeah, you know, it's horror movie logic, you know, so she does her family does have to fall into some of these traps here in order so, you know, that they can witness some of the kills and be in more danger. But they do kind of start to wise up as the story goes along. So I like that aspect of it. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to be complaining about this too, but the film isn't so much scary. And I think it's because, like, the film almost kind of acknowledges this too, is that, you know, the murders of the original Halloween are, you know, compared to other horror films, they're almost kind of quaint and how much simpler they are here. And they are, and in David Gordon Green's version, they're simple as well. They're fairly simple, straightforward kills. They do ramp up the tension nicely. It's beautifully shot in a lot of these scenes. Like, I love the whole layout of the courtyard of the mental institution. It's all like kind of checkerboarded, and all the mental patients are kind of like separated out here. And then, of course, you know, you got the suburban neighborhood, which I think is brilliantly detailed. They make a lot of great uses. Well, Michael makes a lot of great uses of what he can find in the neighborhood, you know, with like knives and hammers. He also makes great use of security lights as well. He does a great job with that. And yeah, he's got the intimidation down. You know, he can be frightening when you don't know where he is or you don't know what he's going to do. And again, I have to stress this, how much I love this, is that Michael never reveals all. He is always silent. He never reveals himself. I mean, you have these podcaster reporters who are trying to get a story out of him and Laurie, and they never get it because Laurie doesn't want to talk. She doesn't want to reveal her plans, and Michael just doesn't talk. Just likes to kill. And there's also another it kind of like a Dr. Loomis Jr. kind of here, who's kind of taken over where Dr. Loomis left off. And he's infatuated with Michael as well. It's like, tell me your secrets, Michael. But Michael won't reveal all, of course. You know, Michael's whole deal is killing. He loves killing, and he does it here, and he does it well in a pretty cool slasher film. It does kind of ramp up the implausibility when you get towards the end there, especially once Michael gets to Laurie's house, and it basically becomes like a house of traps. Because, like, Laurie has had 40 years to prepare, so I could kind of believe that she assembled this kind of like a destructive Home Alone environment where she can lock all the doors, where she has floodlights and stuff like that, where she has an underground basement where she has tons of guns and little traps hidden everywhere. It's a little bit implausible, but at the same time, it's kind of fun towards the end there too. So I gotta admit, I was engaged. I was gripped. Was I scared? Not really. But, you know, as with a lot of these films where, you know, especially with like franchise type horror, which tend to mostly just be rides, it's a damn good ride. It's a ride that's so well constructed and gets you like into that familiar Carpenter mood with the music and the atmosphere and the lighting and the shots and the direction and the grittiness of Laurie. It really got me into the film. I was engaged throughout. There was rarely a moment where I was veering off. So I gotta admit, you know, David Gordon Green's Halloween it's a damn good movie. I mean, there are, you know, little bits of the Halloween franchise I love here and there. I still kind of love the third film, even though it has nothing to do with Michael Myers. but it does have a special place in my heart. And especially David. It's just unfortunate that we got to call this just Halloween. So I'm gonna have to refer to it as David Gordon Green's Halloween from now on, just to let everyone know. Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's the good one. So yeah, for David Gordon Green's Halloween, I give it 4 out of 5 stars.